Washington Pod presents Earl Nightingale.
The distinguished Harvard professor, author, and researcher into achievement motivation, Dr. David C. McClelland, has posed the question, what accounts for the rise in civilization? Not external resources, that is, markets, minerals, trade routes, or factories, but the entrepreneurial spirit which exploits those resources, a spirit found most often among businessmen. Who is ultimately responsible for the pace of economic growth in poor countries today? Not the economic planners or the politicians, but the executives whose drive or lack of it will determine whether the goals of the planners are fulfilled. Incidentally, if you don't have it, you should get David McClelland's book, The Achieving Society. He says, since I'm an egghead from way back, nothing surprises me more than finding myself rescuing the businessman from the academic trash heap, dusting him off, and trying to give him the intellectual respectability that he's had a hard time maintaining for the last 50 years or so. For the fact is that the businessman has taken a beating, not just from the Marxists, who pictured him as a greedy capitalist, and the social critics who held him responsible for the Great Depression of the 30s, but even from himself, deep in his heart. One of the queerest ironies of history, as John Kenneth Galbraith points out in The Affluent Society, is that in a sense Marx won his case with his sworn enemies, the capitalists. Marx loudly asserted that they were selfish and interested only in profits. In the end, many agreed. They accepted the Marxist materialistic view of history. The modern businessman, says Galbraith, suspects that the moral crusade of reformers, do-gooders, liberal politicians, and public servants, all their noble protestations notwithstanding, are based ultimately on self-interest. What, he inquires, is their gimmick? Well, if not only the Marxists, but Western economists and even businessmen themselves end up assuming that their main motive is self-interest in a quest for profit, it is small wonder that they've had a hard time holding their heads high in recent years. But now the research Dr. McClelland has done has come to the businessman's rescue by showing that everyone has been wrong, that it is not profit per se that makes the businessman tick. Instead, it's a strong desire for achievement, for doing a good job. Profit is simply one measure among several of how well a job's been done, but it's not necessarily the goal itself. The same kind of person who matriculates to leadership in business may be found leading in other fields, too. He's the kind of person who spends his time thinking about doing things better. He has a basic concern for achievement. The secret lies in what a person spends his time thinking and daydreaming about when he is not under pressure to think about anything in particular. What do his thoughts turn to when he's not under pressure? It is not the drive for more and more profits that drives the businessman and is responsible for the rise of civilization. It's the achievement goal, the desire for achievement.